I've been living in America for about 12 years and have some questions I would like to discuss in depth about this country and the way how such an ideology take over our minds, corrupting our minds with a virus that actually does much worse than a lot of us tend to think. And it's funny because these questions make people incredibly uncomfortable, although you can actually give reasonable answers, but seems like reasonable answers themselves not allowed. What allowed is to keep your mouth shut, to be silent because of your skin color, since ideology only permit one group of people to talk about issue, while the other group of people must keep their mouth shut. And for some reason, a lot of people accept this as normality. And in some sense, even I, on a certain point, accepted this as well, because, when you try to be nice, when you try to have argument, when people try to intimidate you from emotional way, it's really hard to reason when somebody has a bunch of emotions, feelings, but there's no data underneath, there's no reasoning underneath, and you kind of feel strange and you don't know how to reason in these situations. For example, let's start with the questions. I have 5 questions I would like to discuss in depth the way I can. Question number 1. Why do some people riot for criminals who look like them while refusing to mourn the victims who don't? I noticed this interesting tendency, because if you take Black Lives Matter movement, it riots for criminals, and it forces people to bend their knees for criminals. And for some reason, it's absolutely doesn't care about even black people who's not criminals and who were killed, because it seems like they try to utilize this movement to spread intimidation upon majority of this population, because you have no right criticize the ideas behind this movement. It seems like when you try to criticize this movement that actually based on Marxist ideology, you in some sense somehow got interpret that you criticize black people, which you are not, because when you criticize movement, you criticize ideas on which this movement derive its foundation. And they created this interesting ideology where if you, God help you, try to criticize it, you become automatically racist and you have to be silenced. Otherwise, they will even threaten you with violence, or you can lose your job. And it's funny because criticism is essential in a free society. What criticism does, it helps us to become better. And if, for example, this movement, there's something wrong about this movement, you want to try to find what's wrong, what's exactly confused you about this movement. Because since the beginning, this movement confused me a lot, because people were incredibly emotional in defense of this movement. They were incredibly eager to attack you if you try ask simple question, or if you use certain data to disapprove their claims, their wild claims. And they use these emotions, this passion, almost kind of violence, and become violent in defense of this movement. And it's interesting the position, the words Black Lives Matter, because they put black up front. It seems like when you try to attack the ideas of this movement, in some sense, you attack such a group of people with this particular color of their skin. But it's not true, because you're just attacking the premises, the ideas on which this movement based. And I always thought that if they really want to unite America over certain issues, they would make the movement with American Lives Matter. That's my immigrant, ignorant opinion, because I'm just an immigrant who's been living in America for about 12 years. But I understood one thing while observing this movement, that American Lives Matter would better unite people into one cause. But the problem is, it seems like this movement didn't want to unite us. It wanted to segregate us, divide us into such an anger that would help them to raise money that never went to people who really needed them. That's one of my, I hope, reasonable answers why certain people write for criminals, because writing for criminals in some sense pushing boundaries. It's kind of testing you. It's testing all of us. Look, we're going to write for criminals, and you have to bend your knee. You have to support us still. This way you will show us this blind compliance with our ideological doctrine. I think that's the whole point. That's the whole idea why Black Lives Matter movement riots for criminals only. That's the thing. Because otherwise, if they were reasonable in their demands, they wouldn't gather so much. I don't know, it's not about... I think they would gather more support if they were reasonable, but that's not their goal. Their goal based on resentfulness in some sense, because their idea underneath, like Marxism, is rooted in resentfulness as well, because it's basic on the idea that certain groups of people are bad by definition, while other group of people, for example, there's two groups of people. One group of people is oppressor, the other is oppressed, and since Black Lives Matter writes for those who are oppressed against their oppressors, any of their actions in some sense justify against those oppressors to help the oppressed. That's what you can see a lot of articles during Black Lives Matter movement or riots where they claim that looting, it's not a crime, it's kind of redistributions of goods. Question number 2. Why is it normal for black people to be proud to be black, but not for white people to have the same pride? That's an interesting question, because I've met tons of people who were proud on their skin. They're proud they're black. Even if you take Kamala Harris, for example, I heard her saying, I'm proud to be black. But I never heard Donald Trump saying the same thing. And I heard an argument that a lot of people try to say that white pride linked very deeply to white supremacy. I understand, but if you're proud of your skin color, for example, which I thought is not a good thing, in my opinion, because my personal opinion, you shouldn't be proud of your skin color. Why? Because it's not your achievement. Skin color is not your achievement. Skin color doesn't make you special. What makes you special is your character, is your personality, is your education, is your talent, something that you develop, something that you can flourish, something that not inherently like your skin color. That's what I mean. I'm not impressed. Actually, for me, if somebody say that he's proud to be black or he's proud to be white, it's actually show opposite of their character, because they kind of try to hide behind their skin color. But this aside, if we live in a free society, if black people can be proud of their skin color, white people should be proud as well. And it doesn't mean that all white people who would be proud of their skin color would be horrible racists who believe in white supremacy. No, there's different, I guess, reasoning to be proud in your skin color. And if black people are allowed to do so, then white people should be allowed to do so as well. Otherwise, you create this disharmony that actually create more division among people. Because people are really... they notice this stuff all the time. Even I notice this. And that's my point. And I think what we should be proud, in my opinion, to be Americans. I think to be proud to be an American is much better, because you're proud of the citizenship, you're proud of this country, of this great nation. That's what unites us completely. It doesn't matter what skin color are you. It doesn't matter the country of your origin. You're proud of this great nation, of this great country, of this great people, and you unite in this pride in some sense. While, for example, a pride in your skin color is some sense divide, because it's really easy to merge into tribalism, and from tribalism you can easily merge into this radicalism where you become actually a racist in your beliefs. But I believe that if one ethnicity has a right to be proud in their skin color, then another has the same right as well. Otherwise, the society is not free and not fair. And question number 3, why do we celebrate black culture while behaving as if white culture doesn't exist? That's an interesting question, because I noticed many times from white people in America who were saying that white people have no culture, while black culture is incredibly great and incredibly vibrant. And I couldn't understand why would you do this, because in some sense white culture, and again, I don't understand this black and white culture, because skin color doesn't make your culture. What makes your culture is the community, the country that create culture. Like, for example, I'm from Russia, and I like Russian culture, classic Russian culture, like Russian great writers or Russian great composers. I don't understand why people try to put this color, this Black History Month or this black culture. Nobody cares, because I always thought that black culture is the part of the American culture, like jazz or blues. It's incredibly sophisticated music, but it's not a black music. It's just American music. I don't know why this division constantly must be spread among Americans. Because, like, it's just American culture that I enjoy music like jazz. I love jazz. I love Louis Armstrong. I love Ray Charles. I like Chuck Berry, for example. I like jazz musicians as well. I don't see them because of their skin color. I see them as a great musicians, the same as any other musicians. For me, skin color doesn't matter in this case, because I don't understand why we have to even say black culture. But then again, the same as come back to black people who are proud to be black and white not allowed to be proud of their skin color. The same with the black culture. I mean, how about we just American culture? Because this division is getting really ridiculous, and it creates such a supremacy of certain people, because not everybody want to think reasonably on this matter. A lot of people try to adapt this simplistic way of seeing things, and when they do this, they start seeing themselves as a part of supremacy that actually is not there, but they were trained through their childhood to hate such a group of people because of their race, and then they have superior culture, blah blah blah. And I don't think it's a right way to see things. Question number 4, why is Black Lives Matter acceptable to say but White Lives Matter is racism? That's another good question. I never understood this as well. I know there's a bunch of ideological maze where people go because of this, because of that. They create such a statistic that's not true, and then they demonize other group of people based on the statistic that's not true. You have to be very careful, because data doesn't show what Black Lives Matter movement tried to tell us it is. Data shows absolutely different. You can check it yourself. But my point is, we have to be fair in expressing, like, if Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter as well, because my life is matter. I don't care. I mean, my life is matter. And if I say White Lives Matter and I say myself, though I'm really kind of confused. Am I white or not? Because according to the left, according to the progressive left, whiteness in some sort of European construct, it's a colonization. But Russia is not part of the West, and I'm Asian European. Am I white or not? Because, you see, everything is confusing, everything kind of drowned in these stupid ideological definitions that make no sense. I have so many definitions. It depends on your mood. It's like gender, right? It depends on your mood. You can have hundreds of genders. The same, you can have hundreds of moods to define certain words or whatever you feel comfortable with. And my last question, that's incredibly interesting, that why do we capitalize the B in black but not the W in white? It's a good question, because it's kind of stupid to respond. We became so ridiculous. And my main thing is, I don't know how people don't understand simple thing. Why, if you're racist, you would be offended if somebody call you a racist? Because if you're racist, you know that you're racist, and it's just somebody stated the fact. For everyone else, it's kind of unfair, because it's only hurt decent people. Decent people who constantly feel such guilt about life itself, because to feel guilt, it's a normal way of living life, because you always try to question yourself. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I said something wrong. That's why we like to be forgiven. That's why we like to forgive other people, because life is tough. and life can be brutal. But to abuse other people just because of their race, to state a wild claim and to hate the entire group of people and justify this hate just because you want to believe this way, I don't think it's fair. And I came from Russia, and Soviet Union was kind of the same. And who has no relation to slavery or to Jim Crow or many other stuff that happened in America, I feel even bad when people call me a racist, when people tell me that I'm part of the white supremacy. Because it's a normal way to feel wrong, because when somebody tries to claim wild thing about yourself, sometimes the right way is to look at yourself and see maybe something in me, maybe some in my talk provoke people to call me this way, but then you find nothing because you're not racist. And when people call you racist, it's kind of stupid. And another thing that I really advise all people who've been called racist for no reason, use Hitchens' razor. Whatever can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.